Oh, there it is. Okay, good morning, and welcome to our Sunday service. I am not Zena. We shape-shifted. I am Debbie McLaughlin, and I will be your celebrant this morning. I've been at UU's for about 8 years now, and have found this to be a wonderful, welcoming, loving community. So it always makes me very happy. So I'd like to extend a special welcome to all those who are joining us for the first time. We are very glad that you are here. If you've come in person, we hope you have received a welcome packet with an information card on it. If you don't have one yet, please ask following the service. Fill out that card and put it in the offering basket or drop it off at the church office. If you are joining us online, there is a link on our website to an electronic version of that same card. Our welcoming committee members have yellow name tags and can answer any questions or point you toward additional information. Got any yellow tags out there? Oh, wait, way back there. Okay, yes, okay. Whether you are new or not, please consider staying for coffee and conversation after the service, either downstairs in the fellowship hall or in our Zoom room. If you'd prefer someplace a little quieter, you can also grab a beverage and head to the minister's office, which is on the ground floor downstairs, the last door on the left, where a member of our worship team will host a smaller gathering. Smaller and quieter, probably, yes. We want everyone to feel supported and at home here. And now, let's say our words of welcome together. Whether this is your first or your 1000th Sunday with us, and whether you strolled, rolled, zoomed, ran, or danced in, we are glad you chose to join us. We are one people of many beliefs, identities, origins, sexualities, and genders. All are welcome here. Now we will take a moment to say hello across the technical divide. First, we're going to show the people joining us on Zoom. Yep, there they are. If you are at home, please turn on your camera. Okay, we ready? Now, people at home, wave. Now, people who are attending the service in our building, it is your turn to wave. Okay, so announcements. At least one announcement that I know of. Archie George is going to make an announcement.
Mary and I have compiled and printed out the lists of purchases and sales for the service auction. They're on a table on the south side by the quilt, so pick yours up after the service. One thing I will mention is the single largest item was nothing. So people were just calling out their numbers and bidding anywhere from 10 or 25 bucks up to several hundred. I'm not sure I got every single thing correct there because it was kind of hectic. And considering that those are donations, basically, if it isn't correct, just fix it on your sheet. Don't bother telling me, and donate what you feel like. And if you weren't there and you want to make a donation and just call it service auction, that's fine too. We raised, according to the numbers that we had, $15,600 plus. So it was a lot of fun. If you missed it, you take a look at, and you still, there were a few items that were unlimited, and obviously purchasing nothing is unlimited. So if you missed it, and you can look at the website, the items are out there. For those unlimited, just notify the people that are offering it, and you can make a donation if let them know and attend those items like hikes and so forth.
Hi, I'm Pam Arbor-Green, and this afternoon from noon to 2, myself and the youth are going to be up on the second floor. We're going to be working on finishing up the kids' collage glass window using the old window that came out of the original church. So if you're interested, you can stop by and say hi at noon. Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay. Here end the announcements. The land on which our church is built is part of the ancestral homeland of the Nimipu, the people, and mistakenly called the Nez Perce, or pierced noses, by French-speaking trappers and traders. We acknowledge the land is held in sacred kinship since time immemorial. The land and its people suffered immeasurable trauma brought by Euro-American society, and we are working with its resilient peoples to show respect and contribute to the healing and nurturing of the Hetewit-Wetes, the precious land, and all its people. We are hoping that folks joining us via Zoom have a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. So let's light our chalices together. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
This taller for me, or should I just talk over it? Yeah. Thank you. This morning's service invites us to reflect on the ways in which one generation passes the torch to the next. Who are the people who made it possible for us to be here today? Who are the people who founded and grew this church? Who are the people whose legacies we embody? We have cause to remember them with gratitude and even a little bit of reverence. But we need to keep in mind that we don't know their names. And our own time on earth is similarly limited. Someday we'll be gone, and they won't remember our names either. What is the legacy we want to leave? How do we want to be remembered? These are the words of my colleague, the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin. Come, let us enter this space of hope and community. Come, let us enter this space with our sorrows, our joys, our passion and compassion. Come, let us enter this space with the stories of our ancestors, for their strength and wisdom beats in our hearts. Come into this space present to the beloved companions who move beside us. Come into this space, mindful that together we are building a future for other generations. As Unitarian Universalists, there's no official or even collective opinion on what happens after we die, except for this: love lingers. Acts of kindness and generosity, wise words, gifts given with an open mind and heart change the fabric of reality and change the people that we come into contact with. And this is one reason, among many, that we should strive to be as loving and as generous as possible during this one wild and precious life we have. I invite you now to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 1001, Morning Has Come. It's just 1,000. 1,000. Just 1,000. Nobody reads them. Well, okay, Tasea is reading the music. I just love how Sam plays that. Can we sing that like every Sunday between now and? Yeah. Yep. Okay. And now I'd invite the children and the young at heart forward for our time for all ages. If you brought non-perishable goods for our little free pantry, bring them with you when you come. I invite you now to sink just a little bit deeper into that spirit of meditation or prayer. We build on foundations we did not lay. We warm ourselves by fires we did not light. We sit in the shade of trees we did not plant. We drink from wells we did not dig. Each one of us is the product of generations of ancestors. There are those from whom we received the gifts of DNA, and those from whom we received wisdom, inspiration, help or support, coaching, teaching, who lived with the form of love known as generosity, who shared what was precious, including themselves with us, and then shaped who we became. We are woven of the legacies we embody. I invite you to bring to mind the people who are no longer alive, but who helped make you, you. If you wish, I invite you to offer their names into the silence in the room. We know that someday we too will join this great cloud of ancestors. Our lives are brief, but we too will leave a legacy of love. I invite you to bring to mind now the qualities you embody, the acts of generosity and kindness you are committed to, that you feel called to now in the present. And when you're ready, if you wish, I invite you to speak those words aloud as well. Those who come after us will face challenges we can't even imagine. We can't know now what gifts they will need to weather their own times, but we can wish them well. We can offer our prayers, our words of hope and encouragement. I invite you to bring to mind any blessings that you would want to offer up to future generations, those among us and those who haven't yet made an appearance here on earth. If you wish, give voice to these prayers, release these fluttering bits of hope that live in your heart. We build foundations for structures we will never see. We light fires that are beacons for those who come after us. We plant trees now to provide shade for generations to come. We dig wells with hope and faith that someday all people everywhere will have access to the cool, clear water that sustains life. Amen, and blessed be.
I took my love and I took it down. I climbed a mountain and I turned around. And I saw my reflection in the snow-covered hills when the landslide brought me down. Oh, mirror in the sky, what is love? Can the child within my heart rise above? Can earth sail through the changing ocean's tide? Can I handle the season of my life? Well, I've been afraid of changing, 'cause I've built my life around you. But time makes you bolder, children get older, and I'm getting older.
Our reading today is in 2 languages and 2 voices, which is why I asked Debbie to help me with it. Come on. This is by Tanya Marquez. From the heights of the Andes, the jungle and the desert, from the depth of the sea, from a time that was, from a time that stretches beyond our memory, we are called. Our histories stretch back to the first people, the first steps, the collision of worlds, to abrupt beginnings, all wanderers of this land. We have inherited the unfinished labor of our ancestors, of those that came before us. We are called to continue the work.
Llamado del pasado. De las alturas de los Andes, la selva y el desierto, de las profundidades del mar, de un tiempo que fue, de un tiempo que va más allá de nuestra memoria, somos llamados. Nuestras historias llegan hasta los primeros pueblos, los primeros pasos, el choque de mundos, a comienzos abruptos. Todos somos nómadas de esta tierra. Hemos heredado el trabajo inconcluso de nuestros antepasados, de los que vinieron antes que nosotros. Somos llamados a continuar la labor. Ahora el presente, right? Llamado del presente. Las voces de nuestra gente nos llaman ahora. El mundo alberga sus alegrías y tristezas. Escuchamos el clamor de nuestra gente exigiendo justicia. En ese llamado reconocemos las voces de quienes deambulan en el desierto, los cruzadores de fronteras, los navegantes, los buscadores de justicia, los soñadores y los esperanzados. Tejemos nuestra historia con la historia de nuestros antepasados, aquí y ahora. Estamos en el centro de responder a ese llamado que llega de todos los rincones de esta tierra, del sur, del norte, del este y oeste. Estamos llamados a sostener la labor.
The voices of our people call us now. The world harbors their joys and their sorrows. We hear the cries of our people demanding justice. In that call, we recognize the voices of those who wander in the desert, the border crossers, the navigators, the justice seekers, the dreamers and the hopeful. We weave our story to the story of our ancestors right here, right now. We are in the midst of responding to the call that comes from all the corners of this land, from the south, the north, the east, and the west. We are called to sustain the work. Call from the future. The voices of those who will be call us, a reminder of who we need to be. In the weavings of our story to the web of life, we must remember that we must not cut the strings, for there are others coming after us. Others with tender hearts and strong wills, with creative determination. Those who will live in the house of tomorrow. Their vision escapes us, yet we are called to prepare the road, to leave behind possibility and foundations upon which they'll build a better tomorrow. We are called to create new opportunities.
Llamado del futuro. Las voces de los que serán nos llaman. Un recordatorio de quienes debemos ser. En el tejer de nuestra historia a la red de la vida, Debemos recordar no recortar los hilos, pues habrá otros que vienen después. Otros con corazones generosos y fuertes voluntades, con determinación creativa, los que vivirán en la casa del mañana. Su visión se nos escapa. Aún así, somos llamados a preparar el camino, a dejar posibilidad como legado y cimientos sobre los cuales construirán un mejor mañana. Somos llamados a crear oportunidades.
I went through boxes of my dad's stuff this past week, trying to decide what to take and what to let go of. I wound up consolidating quite a bit. I got rid of a bunch of old picture frames, for example. But I wound up saving almost all of the photos and the documents, in part because they feel like a connection to my own backstory. It made me realize just how tenuous that connection is. I know my parents' names and their stories, and my grandparents' names and stories. My great-grandparents, I think I can get their names right, and I may have the basic outline of their story, but I definitely would not stake my life on it. And if I try to go back further, I only have fragments. I know that my height comes from some Norwegians on my father's side. I know that my comfort food is traditional German cooking because my mother's mother's mother was a first-generation immigrant who taught my grandmother to cook, and my grandmother taught my mother, and my mother taught me. Now, I have relatives who are into genealogy, and I've read their research, but it's funny, the specifics just don't stick. It's strange. Without these nameless, faceless ancestors, I wouldn't exist. They're such a big part of why I am the way I am, not just in terms of the DNA that passed along, but in terms of the culture, the resources, and yes, the trauma too. But their names and faces and stories aren't stored in my active memory. It got me thinking about mortality and what we leave behind, because my situation isn't at all unusual. In fact, I think I have more information about my ancestors than most people do. The vast majority of us are remembered at best as a name on a family tree within 2 generations of our death. And that's only if the line hasn't been forcibly severed by, say, being abducted and forced into slavery, or being taken from our family and put into a boarding school. I mean, talk about generational trauma. At the same time, I know that our lives matter. We make a difference. Our actions, words, and relationships are irrevocably woven into the fabric of reality. Our legacy doesn't live in old papers and photos, though it lives in something more ephemeral. This congregation started in 1945 as the Channing Club, a discussion group founded by Dr. Willis Merriam, who was a geology professor at Washington State University. By 1949, the Channing Club evolved into the Pullman Unitarian Fellowship. At around the same time, John Brocklebank, a University of Idaho Law School professor, started a discussion group here in Moscow. The two groups merged in about 1953 and began to meet jointly in Pullman. They incorporated in 1956. Coralie Borning, who died a little over a year ago, was the last living person who signed the original charter. The founders actually bought a building, St. James Episcopal Church in Pullman, but then attendance dwindled, they couldn't manage the maintenance, and the decision was made to sell the building in 1971. For a while, in the early 70s, the fellowship met in small groups in private homes, and then the Campus Christian Center on the U of I campus. Mid-70s, they shifted to the Koinonia House at WSU. And in 1978, the fellowship voted to call Harold Rosen as a part-time minister. How many of you were here when Harold was the minister? All right. There was a period of growth. Gene Jacobson noticed that this building was for sale and bought it. Built by Swedish Lutherans near the turn of the century, this place had been in operation as a senior center. So during our recent renovations, we actually found bits of the old shuffleboard on the floor of the sanctuary. So the rest of the congregation eventually got on board and paid Gene back for the building, took possession, did extensive renovations, and dedicated this building on October 17th, 1985. Harold resigned in 1987, and there were 3 very short ministries in rapid succession. Art Curtis was here for a year in 1988. Under his tenure, the fellowship bought the Yellow House, which, for those of you who arrived and found us post-construction, was initially a parsonage, but then served as our religious education space for many years. Art was what we now call an interim. At the end of his year, the congregation called and installed Mark Estrin as the minister. His tenure was brief and quite controversial. He left after about 6 months. Things were lay-led for a while, and then Harold Bowe came to do a 2-year interim from 1990 to 1992. During that time, the church paid off its mortgage and also paid off a loan from the UUA. So there's a part of the story that's a little hazy. Some of these ministers most definitely engaged in what would now be considered ministerial misconduct. I've not been able to pin down the specifics. I know that some of them dated members of the congregation, which is a big no-no, although it wasn't as big of a no-no back then. Others were bullied people. And I know Mark Estrin, the problem with his ministry was that he publicly took a very strong stand on the war without bothering to consult the congregation. Now, Marlene Walker, the interim who served before I arrived, gave me a heads up about this history. So when I got here, I asked people, what do you know about this? And we're long past that. But I just want to name, old patterns tend to live in systems long past our conscious awareness. I can't help but notice that every minister who's served since then has been a woman. Just saying. In any event, Lynn Unger came and was ordained and installed in 1992. She stayed for 4 years, in which time the congregation added Universalist to its name, raised money for the piano, and renovated the Yellow House. When Lynn left, the church was lay-led for a year. I think Krista Kramer held down the fort. Krista, is that the year? She did everything. Yeah. Joan Montagnus was called and installed in 1997. She stayed until 2005, when she was called to a large church in Bellevue, Washington. There was another interim year, and then Cale Rice came and served for 4 years, followed by Marlene Walker's interim. And then I showed up in 2012. I've been here for 14 years, the longest ministry this congregation has experienced. For how many of you am I the only minister you've known here? So we have more hands going up than we did for Harold Rosen. And Harold Rosen was actually the second longest ministry. He was here for 9 years, so he comes in second place. Now, I wanted to go through this history and name all these names, in part because I've watched some of you who've been around for a while rack your brains trying to remember what their names were, when they served, for how long, and it's a little bit humbling, actually. But then, we only remember our families back 2 generations. So ministers, I think, we kind of get forgotten once there's nobody left in the congregation who knew us personally. It's all too easy to imagine the day when there's enough turnover in this community that my name fades from memory and only lives on the history page of the website. This is just how it works. For all of us, not just ministers. Wherever we go, we leave a legacy of love. What we do matters. It makes a difference. But that legacy rarely stays attached to our particular name, our particular person, our particular story. There's a part of me that kind of wants it to stay attached, that wants to be remembered as me, but I think that part is actually ego. Although I think about the way the Vietnam Memorial impacts people differently than other memorials to anonymous war dead. There, though, I think it's more about the sheer number of names. When you see how much space 58,281 names take up, you can't help but feel the cost of war. Can't help but think about the fact that each name is a whole person, a whole life. In any event, when it comes to my legacy, the way I want it to be attached to my particular name and story, that feels like ego. The better angels of my nature whisper that there's something truly beautiful. I imagine this vast network behind me, all these people who may be forgotten, but without whom I wouldn't be. And when I think about that, it feels good and right to relinquish my individualness, my selfness, and merge with them, supporting the growth of some unknown community in the future. One that wouldn't exist without me and without the legacy that I leave behind, but that doesn't remember my name. You know, people enjoy the lupins on PEI whether or not they know who planted them. Like Miss Rumphius throwing handfuls of seeds everywhere she goes and letting the wind carry them where they will, I want to offer my love freely, my life energy freely. I want to just throw it out to the universe with a lack of attachment. I don't know the names of the people who planted seeds that are blooming in my life and offering me such deep delight. So why wouldn't I trust the wind to carry forward my offerings to where they'll be most needed? I love imagining them taking root in places and people that aren't here yet. Now, this is a tender and important moment, I think, historically, to reflect on legacy. Paul Shattuck wrote a piece this week that really struck a chord. These are his words. "There's a grief I don't see named anywhere. It belongs specifically to people who are older, who have fought long and hard, who still care deeply, and who are now watching the possibility of a better future slip away at the exact moment their own capacity is slowing down. And not just a better future for themselves, but for the younger generations they love so dearly. Mad and sad at the same time, carrying decades of investment in institutions and movements and people, and watching all of it under threat and being torn down. I've seen this grief in many of you. In fact, that was really the impetus behind offering the Aging with Grace class. I just wanted to create a container where we could talk about that grief together. Shattuck, too, created a container so that people could talk about it. And in those conversations, which flourished, he identified 5 themes. The first is that it feels cruel to have to fight fascism in retirement. It's awful for folks to have to fight battles they thought were already won at a time when they were supposed to be winding down and resting on their laurels. 2, people are terrified for the future, for their children and grandchildren. The chaos and greed we're witnessing today also leaves a legacy, and it is not a pretty one. And none of us have a crystal ball, but it's looking likely that the world will see a lot of suffering resulting from short-sightedness in these times. 3, a lot of folks are afraid they won't live to see the happy ending. Even if I'm right when I say that things are about to turn around, it's going to take a while for the damage to be undone. And people are going to die before we get there. 4, people are experiencing the physical consequences of living with so much stress. Chronic inflammation, heart disease, brain chemistry malfunctions are so common these days. People are also heartbroken as they watch those institutions they've given their life energy to being dissolved or caving to the demands of an unjust administration. Last but not least, people are dealing with an existential grief that comes from a shattered worldview. We thought we knew how the world worked. We thought we had a functioning democracy, but if we did once, we don't now. For me, the hardest part of living in these times is hanging on to my optimistic view of human nature. When such a large portion of society seems to embrace and even glorify cruelty, bullying, and hatred, it makes it harder for me to trust my neighbors. It makes it harder for me to love my neighbors. Here's the thing, though. History is full of chapters like this one. This is not the first time that the moral consensus has backtracked. Not the first time that social progress has not just stalled, but slid. We don't remember those times personally because they're too far back. We've lost our connection to many of them. We've forgotten the names. We've forgotten the stories. But those people, too, are a part of the legacy of love we've inherited. They're woven into it. The heartbroken people who were alive during slavery, during World War II, the people who witnessed the violence that preceded the Civil Rights Act, who lived through Jim Crow, we are their spiritual descendants. We are the spiritual descendants of people who held on to decency and kindness, who were resilient and brave and generous in chaotic and painful times. See, progress has never moved in a straight line. It's always been 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And I know I've been saying it for a while that what we're living through in this moment is the last burst of resistance to the diverse, sustainable, and just future we're envisioning. I really do. I think we're, if it goes like this, I think we're right here. And it's about to go like that. And I may be wrong, but I see signs. The election in Hungary certainly felt like things starting to change directions and go in the right direction again. And there are signs here in the US as well. And in the meantime, we do what our ancestors did. We hope, we pray, we take care of each other, and we keep on moving forward. This is how our ancestors did it, and this is how our descendants will do it the next time there's a 1 step back moment. There's a sense of freedom and reassurance that comes from releasing the specifics of our legacies. We can zoom out, let the focus blur a bit. We can wrap ourselves in the whole fabric rather than clinging to the individual threads. And when we do that, it's so clear that Theodore Parker was right. The universe does bend toward justice. Parker also talked about that which is transient and that which is permanent. He was looking at religion, but I think it's worth holding that distinction when we reflect on our lives and our legacies. We are transient. Our names, our faces, our stories, and specifics, those are going to fade away. But our love and the acts of generosity, kindness, and sacrifice that love calls us into, those things last. Those things are permanent. When we can remember that, we can hold what's transient more lightly. We can give more of ourselves to that which is permanent. We can love more fiercely, trust that love will ripple out through the years, that it'll provide a foundation for generations not yet born, whose dreams will be more than we can even imagine. We build on foundations we did not lay. We warm ourselves by fires we did not light. We sit in the shade of trees we did not plant. We drink from wells we did not dig. And we build foundations for structures we will never see. We light fires to be beacons for those who come after us. We plant trees now that will provide shade for generations to come. We dig wells with hope and faith that someday all people everywhere will have access to the cool, clear water that sustains life. Just remember, the tools we use in all this work are forged out of love. So be it, and so may it be. I invite you to rise now in body or spirit to sing Forward Through the Ages, number 114 in the Gray Hymnal. I don't think I've ever made you sing that one before. It's an old one. Yeah, no, I don't think I've done it in 14 years. And yes, it's the tune of Onward, Christian Soldiers. This is what our ancestors used to do. They took the hymns from their childhood and they gave them words that worked better. Our closing reading is Held in a Sacred Web of Love by the Reverend Meg Riley. Each of us, imperfect and vulnerable body spirits that we are, is connected to a vast web of love which holds us and will not let us go. We are connected through our common ancestor to creative lineages that shaped us. We are connected to the unborn who still shine as stars in the sky. We spin this interdependent web from our very lives as spiders spin fierce silk from their spinnerets. It will not let us go, no matter what we do or don't do. May you always know that you are held in this sacred web of love. I invite you to rise now and sing our sung benediction, There is Love. Please join me in the words to embody our chalice flame. We extinguish this chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it guide our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again. I've led you in meditations that envision that web of love surrounding the whole earth. So start there, the web of love surrounding the whole earth, and then throw it back into the past, throw it forward into the future. Heck, make it bigger, make it hold the galaxy, make it hold the universe. There's something that weaves us together, and we can trust that even when the road is bumpy and hard. And it'll hold us no matter where we go. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace. Come back next Sunday.